Yeah. They say freedom ain't free, but who's really paying the fee? We the people. We the voice they don't wanna see rise up. We the people. Stand tall, no chains on me. We the people. Stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. Police breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fading. Cameras in the sky and the phones and the lights. Data in the cloud, every move in they sights. Algorithms judge what's wrong, what's right. When truth speaks loud, they censor the mic. Elites in the dark, pulling strings from control. Printing fake news just to poison the soul. Talking revolution, but they taxing the poor. They want a new world, we seen this before. I ain't signing no chip, I ain't losing my name. They tracking my steps, why they shift the blame? Digital ID, modern day chain. Freedom's the fire they can't contain. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. States breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. They spy through the apps, through the lens in disguise. Freedom of thought, that's the biggest crime. Elites toast wine, why the people just grind? Ain't nothing divine by the dollar sign. They fear unity cause we too strong. Once we rise up, their empire gone. Truth hit hard like a rebel song. We the people been right all along. So I speak for the silent, the lost, the ignored, the ones fighting peace while they profit from war. Power to the streets, yeah, we even the score. Freedom ain't dead, it's what we fighting for. Eyes open wide, no trust in the screen. They selling lies and designer dreams, but knowledge is power, that's the vaccine. Against the machine, I reign supreme. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. Police breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. We the people, not numbers, not slaves. We the people, still fighting the wave. We the people, the brave, the awake. They ain't cage on mine, they can't break. Yeah. They say freedom ain't free, but who's really paying the fee? We the people. We the voice they don't wanna see rise up. Yeah. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. Holy stay breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. Cameras in the sky and the phones and the lights. Data in the cloud, every move in they sights. Algorithms judge what's wrong, what's right. When truth speaks loud, they censor the mic. Elites in the dark, pulling strings for control. Printing fake news just to poison the soul. Talking revolution, but they taxing the poor. They want a new world, we seen this before. I ain't signing no chip, I ain't losing my name. They tracking my steps, while they shift the blame. Digital ID, modern day chain. Freedom's the fire, they can't contain. Yo, we the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. Police stay breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. They spy through the apps, through the lens in disguise. Freedom of thought, that's the biggest crime. Elites toast wine while the people just grind. Ain't nothing divine by the dollar sign. They fear unity, cause we too strong. Once we rise up, they empire gone. Truth hit hard like a rebel song. We the people been right all along. So I speak for the silent, the lost, the ignored. The ones fighting peace while they profit from war. Power to the streets, yeah, we even the score. Freedom ain't dead, it's what we fighting for. Eyes open wide, no trust in the screen. They selling lies and designer dreams, but knowledge is power, that's the vaccine. Against the machine, I reign supreme, I reign supreme. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. freedom in the name of peace. We the people won't kneel, won't break. Police stay breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the great, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. We the people, bro, not numbers, not slaves. We the people, bro, still fighting the wave. We the people, bro, the brave, the awake. They can't cage your mind, they can't break.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you guys like that song. I'm going to try to make a music video for that one here pretty soon, hopefully in the next few days. Today, I wanted to go over some videos with you guys because in Colorado, they are trying to start the surveillance systems, the complete surveillance systems, and it looks like the citizens are actually fighting back. Let me know what you guys think of this video, and also let me know what you guys would do in their situation, because I think it's basically at all of our doorsteps. Yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this. Let's see how the citizens of Florida are fighting back against their surveillance state here in the United States.
It is not the position of the mayor or the mayor's office that you have no expectation of privacy when you enter a roadway. What he is referring to... What that is referring to...
Excuse...
Quit doing this behind closed doors and come out and debate this in the public forum, you fucking pussy.
Wow. Citizens are not putting up with that, are they?
Hey guys, I'm presenting this video on behalf of every Denver resident and free American who's tired of seeing the rules bent by the very people sworn to uphold them. On May 5th, 2025, Denver City Council voted 12-0 against renewing the Flock surveillance camera contract, a $666,000 deal the people of Denver clearly did not want. So what are these Flock cameras? Flock Safety is a company that installs solar-powered ALPR cameras which photograph all passing vehicles, capture license plate data, and store it in a searchable database. The cameras take, quote, scans of plates. These can be compared to stolen vehicles and wanted vehicles. The Denver Police Department argues that the cameras help recover stolen vehicles, locate wanted suspects, and track crime quickly. But as a civil liberties activist, I argue that because the system captures every vehicle passing and stores location and timing information, it amounts to mass surveillance without proper warrants or oversight.
You know what? When I think about this, I think that it should only be, you know, the way they currently do it. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold the last week or so, but the way cops usually do it is if you commit a crime, then they can go after your license plate and figure out who you are and get your ID. But just to do it on everyone who's innocent doesn't sound right.
There's also concerns about data sharing. For instance, out-of-state or federal agencies accessing the Denver data via the network. So after council voted no on renewing the contract, what did Mayor Johnston do? Just 63 days later, he signed a new contract for $498,500, exactly 0.3% under the threshold that requires council approval. That's not coincidence, that's intent. So because it's under $500,000, now he doesn't need council's approval. That's contract splitting to evade oversight. The city's own purchasing manual prohibits fragmenting or dividing procurements to avoid competitive thresholds or required approvals. That's black and white. So why is it acceptable for the mayor to do the...
Man, so you know what? What it sounds like? It sounds like they built the loophole long before this all happened so that they could have that loophole in the future in case the people fought back. Interesting.
Very thing the law forbids everyone else from doing. And you may be asking yourself, well, how does this affect me? And I'll tell you how. Doesn't matter if you live in Denver, because one Denver mayor gets away with this, and then your mayor's going to think he can get away with it, and a bunch of mayors are going to think they can get away with it. Because what you allow is what you teach. And one thing I don't want to teach is that mayors can just do whatever they want. When city council's unanimous vote gets ignored, our constitutional republic stops functioning as it was intended. It becomes theater. It becomes another example of government that can't follow its own rules. And every taxpayer who foots the bill for these cameras is now paying to be spied on, ignored, and disrespected. This isn't about politics, guys. It's about accountability. It's about the fact that no one is above the law. Not the mayor, not me, not you, not anyone. So if you would like to exercise your First Amendment right to petition your government for a redress of grievances, I'll leave that information to do so in the description of this video. And when I submitted my complaint, I asked them to refer this matter to the Denver District Attorney and the Colorado Attorney General for review under CRS, which is Colorado Revised Statute 18-8-40.
Sorry that my my video is in the way of some of the words sometimes.
For official misconduct,
I will link all of these in the description later on.
which is committed if Mayor Johnson did this knowingly to bypass a legal duty or oversight mechanism. Again,
Of course
remember
he
the
did.
$500,000 threshold. That's why he did this. He committed official misconduct, in my opinion. If Denver voters say no, that means no. It doesn't mean no unless the mayor finds a loophole. The city belongs to the people, not to a contract, not to a vendor, and certainly not to anyone who thinks they don't have to abide by the rules set in place. If you've been with me since day one, then you'll remember when I used to say that Denver Metro Audits is not just my channel, guys. It's our channel. We're a community. And Denver Metro Audits is here to defend transparency and accountability. We're not here to just sit quietly while the mayor makes a mockery of the rule of law, the will of the people, and the checks and balances that define our constitutional republic. When bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall one by one, an unpitied sacrifice in a contemptible struggle. So what do you say, guys? Let's hold Mayor Johnson to the same standard he would hold any one of us to.
I'm going to welcome up our first presenter, John McKinney with the East Colfax
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats. It's going to get pretty hot in this meeting here.
Neighborhood Association. Give it up for John.
Hey guys, my name's John McKinney. I am president of the East Colfax Neighborhood Association. And wow, when I ran for president of our neighborhood association, I was gonna advocate for some sidewalks, clean up a few alleys, and afterward, I was gonna have a few brewskis with my neighbors. I never could have imagined that it involved trying to stand up for our Fourth Amendment right as an American. And I want to thank everybody
Sorry
here
about that. I have to fix a few things.
for standing up for my neighborhood and the citizens within it, standing up for our city and the citizens within it, and standing up for our nation. We don't deserve mass surveillance. That's right. Let's talk about what Flock is. It's two things. Number one, it's a series of cameras, and we're used to cameras all over the town. These cameras work off a solar panel. I don't know if we have any pictures of this. Yeah. And they can be mounted on a street light. They can be mounted on a post. They've obviously been in our community for a few years, or not a few years, just a few months now. But they have a sensor that as you drive by with a vehicle, it takes a video and a photo of the car. Now, with that, it takes that photo and then it uses the cellular system to send that technology to a back-end server, a database. And it used to be, back in the day, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. In Flock's case, a picture is worth 1,000 search terms. So what it does is it creates what they refer to as a vehicle fingerprint. It takes different features about that car. So you can't just take off your license plate to get around it. We don't recommend that either way. But it's telling all the features of your car. That includes the color. Oh, my apologies, thank you. That includes the color of your car, the style of your car, features about your car. It also is intelligent enough to start to figure out what the make and model of that car is, all through machine learning. Now, right now, that's kind of the limit of what it's doing as far as identification. However, it's always good to read a patent to find out where this technology is going, because that is the true intent. You want to defend that intent. That's the purpose of a patent.
If I have a chance, I'll go ahead and find that patent for you guys.
And this patent for Flock actually talks about the back-end database and how it can determine race, it can determine the clothes that somebody's wearing, and other features, height, weight. So many features about an individual that are actually very personal information. And with that, I think it's not hard to see where that can lead beyond cars. So it's not just cars. Eventually, this can definitely lead to bicycles and pedestrians, meaning that anytime we leave our house, we'd be under constant surveillance. Now, the other part of Flock that is really interesting is they didn't necessarily start out marketing to police departments. They actually market to large companies like Target, Walmart. There was one, as I was going into Buc-ee's the other day, I saw a Flock camera. And when they're marketing to these companies, they don't talk about data security. They talk about a 60,000 camera network with 6,000 agencies, and how they're creating a data net. But what they also sell with that is predictive technology, crime prevention, thinking about what you're doing before you're doing it. Yeah, and with that, you know, just alone in Denver, it's capturing 2 million images a day. They're tracking us as we're going.
Wow.
So
2 million a day, huh?
2 million. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 million a month. Thank you.
Oh, a month. That's still a
The
lot.
contract the mayor signed this morning, it's going to be presented that he's taking care of this data security. And what he's done is he's requiring a memorandum of understanding with other agencies. I don't know that a memorandum of understanding can override somebody's religious conviction if they're trying to get information out of our database. But the second thing is that if a warrant is issued to silent tap the data, that's going to override any memorandum of understanding. And I don't know that we can trust our current administration at the national side to not issue those warrants and not force Flock to monitor that data. And this is important because this data is not being stored on the hard drive of a computer under Commander Herrera's desk. This is data that's being held off-site by a private company, right? It'd be nice if it was under your desk. We could kick the machine and unplug it, right, if we felt like somebody's going to get to it. But we can't do that. And then, so really the only way to prevent the sharing of this data in any manner with folks that can cause harm to the members of our community is to not create the data in the first place. And that's... And the other thing about it is...
By the way, guess who's funding all this? The billionaires.
We've all worked with that bonehead coworker whose password is password using the A as an @ sign, right? That somehow got his bank account taken twice, clicks on every link that's sent to him. And while that's probably a little bit lower percentage of officers that take an oath, I can guarantee there's definitely boneheads in that organization too. And we're not talking about 1 or 2 users that have access to the data. We're talking about, in the police department, hundreds of users? How many users, Commander Herrera?
Wow, and it's also being, of course, funded by... Where did it go? Private entities. Interesting. Hey,
Maybe off the top of my head, 700, 800.
So 700-800 users
Trying
and
to learn this as
6,000
I go.
agencies.
Well, that's our police.
Well, no, but yeah, your police, yeah, the Denver police, 700-800 users. But if we take that average among larger departments and smaller departments, that means that we may have 30,000 passwords out there for this system. We're going to hit a bonehead. We're going to hit a bonehead. And they're going to lose the password, or they're going to make a bad decision and share data, even though maybe the mayors between the two cities have signed a memorandum of understanding with each other. So there's a technology, it's called DFR, or Drone as First Responder. Simply put, what that is it's a box, maybe about the dimensions of this podium, that stands about that tall, that you would put in a public place.
guys, look how they implemented their symbol here. The all-seeing eye.
Plug it in.
Hilarious.
And then when the police are dispatched to a scene, it hovers above the scene and can read license plates and that. Now, on the surface, that actually sounds like a really cool technology. I'd like an officer that's going into the scene to maybe have a little guidance, you know? Anybody that plays a video game knows that sometimes it's kind of good to go to that third-person view. So we can definitely understand why they would want that technology. On the other hand, if you're not willing to be open and transparent about all the technology that we're using, how can we be sure that you're not going to take that drone and fly over a protest and find out all the cars that are around that protest, and maybe not go arrest them tomorrow, but just throw the name on a list, right? Start keeping a little bit of a social credit score.
Chinese-style social credit score.
Yeah, and while
Yeah, and it looks like we're heading down to China's path, the way China is controlling their citizens and basically crushing their civil rights. And I thought Trump was against China, but he's going on the same pathway as China is. It's kind of disgusting.
we don't believe
Weird.
that that's the intention of Mayor Johnston or the Denver police, I would question, why would you want to build the infrastructure that makes it possible?
Look at the cops. It's going to take their jobs. You know that? All these bots are going to be taking everybody's jobs, man.
In addition, one of the other technologies is a technology called ShotSpotter. And its basic form, it waits for something that has a sound signature of a gunshot, and it pinpoints where that occurs using microphones throughout the city. However, as people have started exploring the limits of this technology, we're starting to hear about it being turned on just to kind of record for maybe a fight going on. Or
What he means is without our permission. So you can be having a private conversation with someone, and then they just nosy on into your business and turn on your microphone and listen. And they record it too, so.
possibly even conversations. But again, we don't believe that's the current intent for this technology, but why are we putting in infrastructure that makes it possible? And why are we doing it with our tax dollars, right? So with that, we've developed a question on behalf of the East Colfax Neighborhood Association. And that is, Tim, from the mayor's office, what are your concerns about potential city liability from the use of flock technology and the loss of that data to outside sources?
It always happens.
Thank you for the question. For anyone, can everyone hear me? Great, okay. Closer? Okay, great. Okay, stand up? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Councilwoman. Okay, everyone can hear me and see me now. My name is Tim Hoffman. I'm in the mayor's office. I serve as his director of policy. I appreciate the question.
And of course, the mayor decided not to show up, huh?
I think one of the topics that we've been talking about with council members, I know that this has been a concern that's been brought up a couple of times in some of these R&O meetings around some of the potential Fourth Amendment implications around whether or not this would be a violation, this type of data protection. Is that the genesis of the question, or is it something else?
Well, I think there's an open disagreement about whether this is a Fourth Amendment violation. As a
To me, of course it is.
neighborhood,
No doubts.
we 100% believe it is. The mayor's office,
You don't just willy-nilly spy on every citizen in America, violating rights.
the mayor's office has stated that there's no expectation of privacy once you enter the public right-of-way. And my feeling is that kind of surveillance, it erodes our right to religion, it erodes our right to travel freely, and it erodes our right to explore life without experiencing consequences for every little mistake.
Just a first quick correction. You said that the mayor's office position is that we believe that there's no expectation of privacy when you enter a roadway. Okay. Is that better? You guys can hear me now? Okay. I just want to be very clear that it is not the position of the mayor or the mayor's office that you have no expectation of privacy when you enter a roadway. What he is referring to... What that is referring to...
Let him talk.
Excuse me. If folks like invited, council members and people from the mayor's office, can we, if we're trying to engage in a dialogue and conversation, which I'm here to do tonight, I'm here to listen to all of you as well. And a lot of us have been really working really hard trying to address these concerns and these issues. And so if we could just try to have, some respectful dialogue and allow people to speak. You may not agree with what they have to say, and that's fine. We don't have to agree, but I would like to allow people to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez-Gutierrez. What I was saying is that what the reference is to the legal standard around whether or not there's a Fourth Amendment violation when it comes to these type of surveillance technologies. And what the courts have for decades looked at is whether an individual has a reasonable expectation of privacy in the thing that is being searched. There are courts that have looked at this as it relates to license plate reader systems in other jurisdictions, and some courts have found that yes, it is that you do have a reasonable expectation of privacy of your license plate when you're on a public roadway. There are also many other courts that have looked at it who have
That's the way it should be, because if you're not doing anything wrong, why would they run your license plate though? Doesn't make any sense, man.
Found that no, you do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy of your
People
license
just use
plate
their
number when
brains.
you are on a roadway. So as it relates to the first question, that is an unsettled area of law right now.
Are courts really divided on whether or not license plates have a reasonable expectation of privacy while driving on the roadway? Anyone who follows my channel would think that no, there is no expectation of privacy. And upon doing some research, I found a plethora of case law to confirm that all over the country, but a few honorable mentions here in the 10th Circuit, since that's where the flock cameras are. United States versus Matthews, the 10th Circuit held that a driver has no reasonable expectation of privacy in his license plate number because it, quote, is in plain view on the outside of the car, end quote. Also United States versus Walraven, the court reaffirmed that because license plates are in plain view, no privacy exists in them. So Tim Hoffman is saying that there's a division. Is that really true? Well, yes and no. No, in the sense that for the simple act of a plate being visible on a public road, courts are largely consistent that there is no reasonable expectation of privacy in the plate number or in an officer running that number. But yes, in the sense that when you move into more complex issues like these flock cameras, automated scanning, things.
What the dude? It even has a freaking windshield wiper for the camera lens area. Holy crap! They're really into this, aren't they? Keep track of all of you.
Of that nature, courts are diverging or at least have left open whether Fourth Amendment protections apply and when. So in summary, the 10th Circuit has clearly held that for license plates and similar required vehicle identifiers that are publicly displayed on the outside of the car, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy under the Fourth Amendment. However, the 10th Circuit appears not to have issued many more recent or detailed opinions, at least publicly available, that explore more advanced issues like flock cameras, automated license plate readers, things of that nature. The truth of the matter is, there is no expectation of privacy for your license plate. And just because I believe that doesn't mean that I believe that government should be doing mass surveillance on us. So I'm all about Fourth Amendment protections when it comes to protecting us against the government. But when it comes to government using those same rules to spy on us, that's where I draw the line. And the truth of the matter is that we had some founders of this country who were rebels, and they created the Fourth Amendment in order to give people a way to break the law. At least that's what I think. And I think the reason they did that is because they knew the true nature of government. They knew that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like I say, government is like cancer, and eventually it just grows into this uncontrollable thing. So why Tim Hoffman said that the courts are divided? I think he was just trying to be diplomatic about it because, as you can see, this is a very left-leaning crowd and they're very unruly. And often left-leaning crowds tend to, throw tantrums and have outbursts. And if what I...
Oh, by the way, I am neither a Republican or a Democrat. That was just created to create the division in the first place. I researched this back in, I think a little after when 9/11 happened. That's when I started researching about all this. You guys need to look into that yourselves.
Said offends you because you are on the left and you're thinking about writing me a tantrum throwing comment, then you would just be proving my point. Now, just because I'm not on the left, though, doesn't mean that I'm on the right. A lot of times when you tell people that you're not on the left, they just assume you're a Trumper.
Dude looks like
And
G-Day Vance.
I'm nor on the left or the right. I think they're both terrible. I think that the left and the right are in cahoots against you.
Facts.
See, you are not the same person that your grandfather was, and it used to be the people versus the power, and they have manipulated you into believing that it's the right versus the left, and it's not, and it never was, and it never should be. They are getting exactly what they want by dividing you. Divide and conquer, right? Everyone needs to wake up to that, okay? It's the people versus the power.
But I think to the larger point around the question of, is this a technology that is tracking everyone in this room around the city right now? I think that there, as we were talking about, there is a fundamental disagreement in that, yes, there are pictures being taken at these 111 locations of the cameras, but they are not being searched by anybody unless your car is suspected of being either stolen or involved in another crime. And so there is a difference between the mass surveillance where everyone is being watched all the time and the data being passively collected. And it is then only looked at, and this is one of the new features that we included as we roll out these new technological features. DPD, as of now, is the only agency in the country who has access to Denver's data. Period, full stop.
For how long though?
For now, until there are MOUs negotiated with other local jurisdictions. But as part of the new data system that we are rolling out, when a DPD officer...
You lie! Please stop.
People don't even want to listen to their government because of all the corruption. They don't trust them anymore.
When a DPD officer is going to search for a license plate, there will be an enumerated list of crimes that they will have to select that will then enable them to search for that vehicle. So it is not as though they can type into an open box any reason for why they are doing it. It will be an enumerated list of either Colorado or Denver-based crimes that would then enable them to search for it. So I think, again, There is simply a disagreement over whether or not the passive collection of these license plate images that is then held on this system but is not accessed or looked at by anyone constitutes the mass surveillance that it's being portrayed as, or if it's only when you, or it's not even you, when your vehicle is suspected of being involved in a crime or has been stolen or otherwise, it would then be queried into the system, and if it exists from the last 30 days, then it would pop up into the Flock system.
So the question is actually about liability. What response?
This guy, he knows what's up. He's guilty. I can tell by the way he's looking.
How do you feel about the city?
He knows what they're doing. He knows the
liability
agenda.
for creating this data that could possibly be used against us.
You guys see his eyes? He's part of them.
Can you say a little bit more about what you mean by used against the citizens?
Well, let's say that a citizen from the state of Texas was seeking abortion care and coming to Colorado, and their data had been released through Flock, and it was identified that they had come to Colorado to get an abortion. Maybe they get picked up by a bounty hunter, and they get brought back for justice, or the Texas version thereof. Now that person has experienced damage because of data that was collected by the city of Denver. I would believe that would cause a great liability for the city.
Yeah, so a couple things. Number one, we have shut off access to every jurisdiction outside of the state of Colorado.
For me, it's shut off. Sure, you did.
That's been the case for several
Can't
months now.
believe you
We
guys
now
anymore.
have shut off access to every jurisdiction outside
Wow.
of Denver. So a Texas jurisdiction simply does not have access to Denver's data. They cannot get it. Secondly, there are state laws and there are Denver ordinances around whether or not we can comply with either civil immigration enforcement or reproductive health care. When someone is coming, there's a SHIELD law now statewide. And so Flock has set in parameters that there's absolutely, in the state of Colorado, no searching for any sort of terms that have any sort of implication around immigration enforcement, civil immigration enforcement, or reproductive health care. It's just not something that in the current system that we have built in this Denver model.
Yeah, can't you get around it easily?
What about party affiliations? Data breaches.
All right, thank you all for inviting me here so much and for coming and spending your time. I'm Sarah Parody. I'm one of your council members at large.
So out of all the council members, I think she's the only one that spoke up because she knows what's going on.
In
Watch
addition
this.
to this large searchable database, which officers can access without any kind of reasonable suspicion or warrant. So I do take objection to the mayor's office saying that you have to be suspected of a crime. You only have to be suspected of a crime in the mind of an officer doing a search. There's no legal standard that's applied, and it can be totally investigatory.
And I'm going to show you guys some audits of police officers making up fake laws as they're trying to forcefully arrest and detain innocent civilians, okay? Citizens.
The way we got on the national network was we signed an agreement to get these cameras and to create a searchable database for ourselves. It said nothing about a national network. It said nothing about a state network. And DPD did not know, the mayor's office did not know, certainly council did not know, certainly you all did not know that we were on that national network until city council started asking questions after we had been on it for a year. Flock put us on it without any permission and without telling us. And we've decided that this company is so trustworthy that we can do a little handshake deal with them. I am not.
What? They were doing it already. They've been doing it for a year. Oh, without the citizens' knowledge. Holy crap.
Not okay with it.
Lastly,
They're doing everything under the rug.
I need to deliver one clear message to the mayor. Please share this with him. On behalf of the citizens of East Colfax, and we're going to say this in a really East Colfax kind of way. Quit doing this behind closed doors and come out and debate this in the public forum, you fucking pussy.
Mm. 'Cause Well, it looks like the people are fed up. That's one state. Looks like they're going to be tearing down that surveillance system, hopefully. If you guys don't know, this is Denver Metro Audits. I would highly recommend that you guys go ahead and subscribe to this guy. He does tons of civil rights kind of videos. Very informative, and he's done it for a long while now. I'm going to take a little break here, and then I have so many videos to share with you guys, but I'll probably share one more video when I get back. Stay tuned. Enjoy the music. BRB in a few minutes.
Yeah. They say it's all for your safety, your peace, your freedom. But freedom don't come with a barcode. This is the new world, and we ain't bowing down. Cameras on the corners, drones in the sky. They tell you it's protection, but it's really a lie. Digital chains, call it ID for your life. Scan your face, trace your steps, no place to hide. Big brother peeking through the cloud in the code. They want your soul signed in binary mode. Elites at the top playing God with control, while the rest of us work just to fill up their gold. We the people, we rise, no order above. They can't program the spirit, can't sense our love. From the east to the west, every son, every daughter. We break the chains of the new world order. Yeah, yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. Stand tall, stand tall, stand tall. We break the chains of the new world order. They talk about peace while they prep for the wars. Global agendas behind secret doors. Logos of the eye, symbols in disguise. Truth buried deep where the media lies. Control the food, control the seed, control the truth, control your feed. They selling fear on a 4K screen, but the power of the mind still reigns supreme. No fear, no slave, no silent border. We fight for truth, we fight for order. Their reset plan ain't divine or holy. It's built on greed, control, and the phony. We the people, we rise, no order above. They can't program the spirit, can't censor our love. From the east to the west, every son, every daughter. We break the chains of the new world order. But they can take your mind unless you let them inside. So stand up, stay woke, and move smarter. Yeah, yeah. This is the anthem of the freedom starter. We the people, we the power. No new world order. Yeah, yeah. We the people. We the power. No new world order. Yeah. They say it's all for your safety, your peace, your freedom. But freedom don't come with a barcode. This is the new world, and we ain't bowing down. Cameras on the corners, drones in the sky. They tell you it's protection, but it's really a lie. Digital chains, call it ID for your life. Scan your face, trace your steps, no place to hide. Big brother peeking through the cloud in the code. They want your soul signed in binary mode. Elites at the top playing God with control, while the rest of us work just to fill up their goal. We the people, we rise. No order above. They can't program the spirit, can't sense our love. From the east to the west, every son, every daughter. We break the chains of the new world order. Yeah, 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 yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. Stand tall, yeah, stand tall. Yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. They talk about peace while they prep for the wars. Global agendas behind secret doors. Logos of the eye, symbols in disguise. Truth buried deep where the media lies. Control the food, control the seed, control the truth, control your feed. They selling fear on a 4K screen, but the power of the mind still reigns supreme. No fear, no no slave, no silent border. We fight for truth, we fight for order. Their reset plan ain't divine or holy. It's built on greed, control, and the phony that we the people ride. No order above, they can't program the spirit, can't sense our love. From the east to the west, every son, every daughter. We break the chains of the new world order. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. Yeah, 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 yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. New world order. New world. They can take your cash, take your job, take your pride, but they can't take your mind unless you let them inside. So stand up, stay woke, and move smarter. This is the anthem of the freedom starter. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What? We the people. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, we the powder. Yeah, 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 yeah. No new world order. Your power. Your power. Your power. No new world order. Yeah. They say freedom ain't free. But who's really paying the fee? We the people. We the voice they don't wanna see rise up. We the people. Stand tall, no chains on me. We the people. Stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. Police breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fading. Cameras in the sky, and the phones and the lights. Data in the cloud, every move in they sights. Algorithms judge what's wrong, what's right. When truth speaks loud, they censor the mic. Elites in the dark, pulling strings from control. Printing fake news just to poison the soul. Talking revolution, but they taxing the poor. They want a new world, we seen this before. I ain't signing no chip, I ain't losing my name. They tracking my steps, why they shift the blame? Digital ID, modern day chain. Freedom's the fire they can't contain. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. States breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. They spy through the apps, through the lens in disguise. Freedom of thought, that's the biggest crime. Elites toast wine, why the people just grind? Ain't nothing divine by the dollar sign. They fear unity cause we too strong. Once we rise up, the empire gone. Truth hit hard like a rebel song. We the people been right all along. So I speak for the silent, the lost, the ignored, the ones fighting peace while they profit from war. Power to the streets, yeah, we even the score. Freedom ain't dead, it's what we fighting for. Eyes open wide, no trust in the screen. They selling lies and designer dreams. But knowledge is power, that's the vaccine. Against the machine, I reign supreme. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. We the people, stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people, won't kneel, won't break. Police breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the grave, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. We the people, not numbers, not slaves. We the people, still fighting the wave. We the people, the brave, the awake. They ain't cage of mine, they can't break.
All right, I am back. So on YouTube, there are literally like thousands and thousands of videos about digital ID and everything else. This one came out 4 months ago. It has 1.5 million views. Let's check this one out.
We're living in an extraordinary moment in history. We are at a moment here in 2025 where we have world historic, game-changing technologies now starting to scale. But America and the world itself are going through huge contortions. And there's been 3 previous junctures where Americans have found themselves in this exact place. And the key piece of this is tipping points. When do you go from the slow build of a thing that's kind of clunky and not really working, do you all of a sudden get an iPhone that goes, holy shit, this is the most amazing thing in the world, and then everybody needs them? And what I'm trying to tell you now is we are in the middle of 3 tipping points that are world historic changes that are happening around us today. I'm Pete Leiden. I've basically been following the story of technology and its evolution and looking ahead into how it's going to change the world over the next 25 years.
Never seen this video.
Way back in the
By the way, I've never seen this video before. So we're all watching this together.
90s and the earliest days of the internet. There was really only one place in the world that was really all over that, and that was Wired magazine. And it was in those early days that the founders of Wired picked up on me as someone who had the same kind of sensibility about the transformative nature of these technologies. And so they wooed me to work with them in the early days of Wired. Now, people had no idea what was even going on with the internet, and literally what's email, what's the web. They had no idea how these goofball startups with names like Amazon were ever going to amount to anything. And the other thing that was going on there beyond this digital revolution was essentially the beginning of globalization. And so myself and my co-author, which was Peter Schwartz, wrote a famous, iconic cover story at Wired that was called The Long Boom. And it was a history of the future, the story from 1980, which is in our past, to 2020, which was in our future, trying to explain what was really coming.
So I think they already knew what was coming because it was already planned ahead of time. Can't fool us. I'm starting to think this dude's probably part of it. Let's see.
Now, those of us who are in technology and those of us who have been immersed in it, which I have been for most of my career now, can see clearly these kind of incremental stages of these new technologies, that all successful new technologies go through a technology adoption curve. Let's say like Uber, the idea like, oh my God, instead of a taxi, it's all on your phone. And then all of a sudden, when enough people show how amazing it is, boom, the entire crew moves over. And the old system of the taxi system is gone. So you're watching an old system being essentially dismantled or having to come down at the same time as we're taking off on these new technologies to build the next systems. We're in the middle of that. Right now is smack in the middle of that in our era. But we've also seen this in American history before. There's been 3 previous junctures where Americans have found themselves in this exact place. Now, that's not to say it's common. But,
I was going to say this jump is going to be very different from these other jumps.
No, this is 80 years ago, the last time we saw this. And they tend to come in these 80-year cycles. But what's amazing about these things is they have bursts of unbelievably widespread innovation that last for 25 years. The last big one was coming off World War II, 1945. 80 years ago, America was on a very similar parallels. We basically were watching the essentially dismantling of the...
Wait a minute, so they only do this like not too long after a war.
Old world that had been working pretty well, the economy and societies of the West. And then there'd been a crash and you run into the Great Depression of the 1930s. Now, what that was the old system of running the economy just wasn't working. And so what happens is you watch these junctures in American society, we get super polarized. For example, there was an America First movement in the 30s. We were on the verge of violent conflict in America. And then you had the FDR and the kind of New Deal coalition that came out of the Depression, and they started to get traction. But anyhow, we had to resolve this political tension in America. And frankly, it had to do it in the world because the world also was going through this juncture. And so from 1945 to 1970, we watched the great post-war boom. Many people call it the high point of global capitalism. And you built this crazy economy where you did many things that were completely different than the previous era. Tax the rich at 90%. You watched incredible investment in public infrastructure like the interstate highway system and building suburbs. You basically watched the GI Bill and education, building institutions for higher education, expanding it for the boomers. That all happened in 25 years, the Great Society, the whole thing, 25 years. And then we ran in the 70s. It started kind of getting along in the tooth, stagflation, oil shocks. But here's the point. Old system had to come down. super conflict around it, and ultimately the building of a thing that was dramatically different than before. We've been through that before. And funny enough, like I say, if you go another 80 years back, we did it again. It's 1865. What is 1865? It's the end of the American Civil War. Now, this is a good example of how passions run very high and political conflict is extreme at these junctures. In the Civil War, it was the most extreme. I mean, we literally had to have 750,000 Americans died in the Civil War. America, since the founding, had been 750,000 Americans died in the Civil War. America, since the founding, had been in tension with these two economic systems. One was essentially a system of the early manufacturing economy where you needed free labor in the North. But in the old South, we basically had slavery. And they said, no, we're not going there. We're not going to give it up. We're not going to let go of this old system. We're going to fight to the death on the thing. And so this is a good example. Anyone rooted in the old systems that are going down are passionately want to defend that at all costs. Now, the thing that people do not know about the Civil War, I don't really remember as much about the Civil
That is fascinating. So he's basically saying it's going to happen again.
War, is
another civil war is going to come soon.
Civil War after 1865 had an unbelievable explosion of progress that lasted for, what do you know, 25 years. For example,
well, unless the people wake up and figure out what's happening.
The Homestead Act, which is you gave anybody who went out west 150 acres for free. There was also land grant universities. All these little states started building institutes of higher education to educate average people, but also to be pushing scientific understanding of agriculture. But here's the other progress that was going on. It was technology. It was only after the war that America blew out like 175,000 miles of rail and essentially stitched the entire continent together with this steel-based rails. And essentially we reinvented America in 25 years. And here's the even crazier thing though. You go back another 80 years, we did it again.
History repeating itself. But I don't think that's just the a slogan. I think there's people that's making it happen.
1787
purposely.
To about 1810, 1815, we had created what is America. One way to understand what was happening in America at that time was it was part of a bigger part of Western Europe, in particular an extension of Britain, which was going through the Enlightenment at the time. The Enlightenment is essentially a fundamental system change from a feudal society kind of dominated by the Catholic Church and all that kind of stuff into essentially what we would now consider the modern world. And they invented 6 huge things that we still are working within today. Now, the reason I'm kind of saying that is that had world historic implications. That was a building of a civilization that we essentially invented, we humans, but we Western Europe, in basically a space of 120 years. The forward motion of innovation, essentially from the West, was coming with those crazy ass Americans who had this wide open continent to spread it to. And that is what America's role has been vis-a-vis the West in every one of those epochs. I'm arguing we have one more crank at that wheel with the arrival of 3 world historic changes that are happening around us today. And the most obvious one is the arrival of artificial intelligence.
ChatGPT. Maybe you've heard of it. If you haven't, then get ready, because this promises to be the viral sensation that could completely reset how we do things.
The arrival of generative AI, with the arrival of ChatGPT 3.5 in November of 2022, I think we're going to see that as a world historic moment. I think people will look back on that is the starting gun of what will be understood as the age of AI. And I use age in a very explicit way, which is when you talk about a different age that humans enter, like, oh, the humans, entered the Bronze Age or the Iron Age. I mean, you're talking about essentially a fundamental game-changing technology, a breakthrough, a step change in our abilities, that once you cross that threshold, you don't go back. We're going to watch an explosion of amplification. The amplification of our mental powers with digital computers and now AI are going to be very similar to the amplification of our physical powers that mechanical engines, initially by steam, created the prosperity and wealth of the world that we know now. where we're just going to say, holy shit, we had no idea this is the world we're in. This is the first time we have an energy source that is a technology, 100% a technology, not a commodity. We don't have to dig it up as coal. We don't have to tap into it as oil. Why is that important? Because once it's a technology, you can consistently drive down the cost. And there's a kind of a rule of thumb in manufacturing, which if you double the number of producing solar panels, you will come up with about 20% of a drop in cost. And this is the point, it's gonna keep getting cheaper. And the same thing, flipping around, the same thing with electric cars. People think, well, electric cars are still expensive and whatever. You're not thinking this through, because battery technology is the same thing. That's in lithium batteries. We're now getting whole nother generations of batteries, like solid state batteries, that essentially will be a next generation. But the point is, the forward motion of costs coming down on clean energies is just beginning. And when that happens, you're gonna have what? Abundant, clean energy.
Uh-oh, not this part.
Basically, right around the time that we essentially had our earliest breakthroughs on generative AI, which is about 15 years ago, we also had the big breakthrough in what they call CRISPR, which is we figured out a way to cheaply and easily edit the genome of any living thing.
I think they did that when they gave you guys the these things. Wait, and you guys had to wear masks. They gave you guys that to change your DNA, I think. RNA.
And you just take one example. We now know how to take a cell, put it in a vat, and you can give it the same amino acids and the same kind of nutrients and the same things that a cow roaming around a field for like years chewing on grass would get those same nutrients, those same amino acids, and essentially would produce in their muscles the meat. That same thing can happen in a vat to actually grow the same cow cell into actual meat. Not like kind of meat, not like plant-based meat that's kind of like meat. It's meat. It's the same cell. It tastes exactly the same. And what's happened, we've only 25 years ago, it's like 2003 was the first time humans had ever cracked or understood the human genome.
I'm wondering if they're feeding everybody that in some of these grocery stores. I'm quite curious now. It's kind of disgusting.
$3 billion, and it took 15 years to do it. The cost of doing that from $3 billion had been driven down so far, it was $1,000. It's now at the point where it's about $100. And eventually it's going to keep driving down to $50 or nothing. It's not just the same level, it is twice as fast. We can now essentially design these things for outcomes that we want to happen cheaply and easily. So the technology story of today, AI, clean energies, even bioengineering, is kind of familiar at some level. The next several iterations here, though, I think is putting a bigger lens on what's going on today. And it gets us back to what we were describing as what's happening in America is a once in a 80-year reinvention. And in fact, it's even possible that what's going on here is essentially the early days of building a 21st century civilization. And so when you think about that, you go beyond the technology. That's like the foundation. And so the next thing up, I think, from technologies, you start thinking, okay, well, what could you build with those technologies? What kind of an economy would you want to build? The economic system that the United States has been based on, that has worked for essentially the top.
That's where they're going to start your digital ID and social credit system.
10% for
Let's see if this guy mentions that.
sure, and certainly for the top 1%, has not been working for 80%. And it's gotten to the point where they just have had it. So as crazy as it sounds, we could be at a point in the world right now, in 2025, where we are watching the beginnings of a shift from financial capitalism, born and raised out of the Enlightenment, to essentially some version of a sustainable capitalism. We're going from a world of representative democracy, which was a brilliant move forward, to essentially a digital democracy.
Told
we're
you.
also going to go from a world of nation states, which again was a great breakthrough
world
from
order.
empires and colonies of the past, to some kind of global governance that coordinates the 10 billion people on this planet. That's the level of change I think we're actually heading into. That's the level of change I think your kids are going to be wrestling with, and that's the level of change I think America is going through now. And the quicker we start to wrap our heads around that challenge and the kind of scale of the invention we're up to, the better off we're all going to be.
Dang, man, we got to wake up each other quickly. This is not good. See, so many videos now on digital ID. Digital IDs to fight online scams. See, they're always trying to push something that's kind of evil to something that they're trying to fight, or that they're trying to get rid of, something bad, you know? Here's why digital ID is so dangerous and what it means for the U.S. He's part of the system. What are you talking about? Who's this guy? So are you guys going to be signing up for this digital ID or what? Let's see what this guy says.
Are what we're seeing in front of us with this digital ID system announcements.
Why are all these videos the same? Like they're almost like being made by the same group of people. They have the same layout, the same kind of music.
A fulfillment of the scripture in
Revelation
chapter
now.
13, verses 16 and 17, which says the following: He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand and their foreheads, that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Most of you just heard in Vietnam, millions of bank accounts were shut down because people did not link them to their new
Dang, that just happened in September 2025.
biometric IDs. The Prime Minister of UK came out and said the following.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Oh, dude. I wonder what the UK citizens are going to do about this, because we have our own battles to fight here.
It's as simple as that.
Well, very clear. In one sense, these IDs are supposed to promote convenience and security. And to some degree, you know, we all have all kinds of things on our phones. Most of us now pay with our phones. And so to have an ID on your phone will make things more convenient. But there's a trick to that. And while technologies are, you know, owned...
See, that's what happens when we all get lazy. Convenience. They start stripping away your rights and stuff, man.
by banks and social media companies, when the government holds all of those keys together, our money, our health, our travel, our social media, and even our ability to speak freely, like in UK you cannot do that nowadays, it does open door for control and punishment at the flip of a switch. For us as Christians, this is not about fear, but recognizing the danger
By the way, I'm not Christian.
of centralized power when it comes down to freedom, privacy, and our faith. So, is this the mark of the beast? Not yet, but it does condition the world for it. Now, the scripture is very specific about this mark, that it will be instituted in the end times under Antichrist rule, according to Revelation 13. It will be required to buy or sell, according to Revelation 13:17. It will demand worship and allegiance to the beast, not just compliance, but devotion. Revelation 14:9, Revelation 14:11, Revelation 15:2, Revelation 16:2, Revelation 19:20, and Revelation 24. So there will be a connection to allegiance and to the worship. It will also be tied to some kind of a number, 666, or the number of the beast, according to Revelation chapter 13, verse 18. And lastly is that refusing to take this will cause you to die. Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. Now, is this ID a mark of the beast? No, because it's on your phone, not on your forehead. You don't have the ability to work. It doesn't necessarily end your life. And it's not tied to your devotion to a system, but it's mainly to eliminate, other people who are in the country who's not supposed to work. But all of this is a dress rehearsal, both what happened during COVID and what is happening now, and we will see more and more of that as days go on. People will be preconditioned to accept government-controlled systems where our finances are going to become more centralized. Where
That's fascinating. So people's mental state, physical and spiritual state is going to be so weak that they're going to just follow and conform to the
everything
system.
else is going to become not just where your information is stored in some kind of a social media company, but owned, controlled, and regulated by the government. So while these things are not the mark itself, the mark will be about worship and allegiance, not just about data and finance. We do have to be alert as Christians. Now, something I do want to mention about this mark of the beast. Before the mark of the beast shows up in Revelation 13, the seal of the Lamb appears first in Revelation chapter 7 verses 1 through 8 and Revelation chapter 14 verse 1. This seal of the Lamb does not make God's own, but it identifies and protects those who are already loyal to Him through the union with the Lamb. So in the same way, Satan duplicates this with his mark. He's a counterfeit, he's a copycat in Revelation 13. And his mark is tied to worship and allegiance, not just to technology. So whether it involves the chip or an ID, it will be connected to something being planted in your body. And what will define that is not necessarily the chip or where it's placed, as much as allegiance and devotion to the beast and his kingdom. The same way the seal identifies those who belong to Christ. So I don't live with the fear of the mark of the beast, because I live in the fear of God and I have the seal of the Lamb. I'm
Yeah, the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews need to stick together on this.
sealed by the Holy Spirit. And because of that sealing of the Holy Spirit, when the governments and the world begins to come closer and closer to the end times and to the coming of the Antichrist, and the time begins to run out, I am not afraid, but I am alert, because the world is being preconditioned for what is to come. Now, I just preached a message.
Interesting. That's a Christian's view. I had no idea he was Christian, or it was Christian related. Real University of Digital. Proof they're trying to bring. Heck, where's the normal people that I watch? All of a sudden, they're all gone. National Registry. Identity card. They're preparing for ID in America. Why ID cards are coming? National identity card. Oh, some ordinary game. Let's see what this guy has to say.
Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mutahar, and reject that digital ID, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is one of those things that I kind of saw the other day. Do not introduce digital ID cards. This thing has sort of started up. It needed a goal of 100,000. 1.2 million British people said that they don't want to see digital IDs coming into their country. That number just keeps growing. So I wanted to kind of touch this situation a little bit. The reason why we're talking about this is I've covered a lot of stuff recently on internet censorship, government surveillance, user privacy, a lot of things that I hold near and dear and important to me, right? And I think we live in a world that is slowly turning into, well, I mean, let's be real, not slowly, pretty aggressively turning into a surveillance state. But before we go into this video, I do not want to be the one spreading misinformation or fear-mongering you, okay? I want to just lay out the facts and lay out the reality of a situation. So I do implore that you watch this video. I'm not going to make it too terribly long. I'm just going to give you the upfront facts here. So according to the United Kingdom, in order to work now, in order to go into the future, digital ID is mandatory. And the government says that it's to combat illegal working while making it easier to a vast majority of the people to use the vital government services that they have.
So they brought in purposely the illegal immigrants, and then they use that excuse to combat illegal working. Oh my God, dude.
Now, I want to start off by saying IDs are pretty much commonplace everywhere, okay? Obviously, in Canada, if you want to have a valid ID, something like a driver's license makes sense. Obviously, this contains my name, my address, date of birth, so on and so forth. And of course, obviously, there are, things that don't serve as valid ID in Canada. For things like health cards, for instance, they don't. So driver's licenses and passports are these IDs that you basically show around the entire world. Okay, so for instance, a cop pulls me over, I show them my identification. But what if you're like, Muda, what if I don't want to carry around my goddamn wallet, okay? The only reason I carry around my wallet is because I need my driver's license when I drive. If I get pulled over, I need to show an ID to the cop. Otherwise, I could be in some pretty serious trouble. So of course, obviously, this is not new. For instance, in the United States, there is also digital ID that is available. For instance, if you want to fly domestically, you can go to the Google Wallet and store ID information for your, participating state, so you don't have to whip out the driver's license when you go to the TSA. For instance, if you're in the state of California, you can use their wallet application, the Apple Wallet, the Google Wallet, to store, yes, your identification, your ID card. So when a chippy pulls you over, instead of showing them your physical license, you can give them a digital license. Actually, before I spread a little misinformation, just to reiterate, this will not replace a driver's license physical yet. Law enforcement, state government agencies, and businesses aren't yet accepting the MDL. So this technology...
They're waiting to see what you guys are going to do about it.
Technology is already here, and it works in other countries, okay? Now, why is it such a huge deal, and why is it such a massive issue in the United Kingdom? Well, they're kind of billing it as a way for a measure to make it tough to work in their country illegally. Now, I don't know much about the United Kingdom and their illegal immigration, but illegal immigration is a huge hot-button issue in the entire world. It's an issue in Canada, it's an issue obviously in the United States, and it's an issue clearly in the UK. And I've seen, all the images of like the boats that are flooding into the country and the metrics that they have that illegals are coming into their country to work and are taking jobs from, again, residents, right? Like actual like citizens in their country, which is a problem. But to give you an idea, this digital ID system doesn't necessarily even solve it. So there are already requirements and, systems in place in the United Kingdom.
And this is kind of interesting. The world is getting interesting. I'll have one more video after this one, then I'm going to call it a night, ladies and gentlemen.
To check if a job applicant is right to, can work. And a lot of this works with them validating through their systems online, whether users have valid documentation. And I think the documentation is like a work visa, I think an NI number or something of that nature, which is equivalent to like a SIN number in Canada or an SSN number in the United States. It's one of the, it's literally the ID fucking code you get, when you have any legal status in a country. Now there are penalties, obviously. If you are an employer that is illegally hiring people that aren't, they don't have a right to work in your country, you could face some pretty huge breaches, something like 45,000 per illegal worker and up to 60,000 if you decide to repeat off.
Well, they cannot implement that if every single corporation or business does not go along with it. They need to
Now,
what do you call it? I can't even talk tonight. I can't even talk. They need to refuse this digital ID is what I'm basically saying.
Obviously, I don't think this is a huge issue for like a super large corporation, but typically it's not the big companies that hire most of the illegal workers, right? A lot of the big companies usually have the money and the clout to like pay for work visas or something of that nature, but for a small business, it can be an issue. Now, I personally don't think that requiring somebody to show a license on a smartphone is necessarily going to work if the employer themselves is already breaking the law. Remember, employers hire illegal workers mostly because they can pay them significantly less, and they know full fucking well that they can abuse the worker, and the worker doesn't really have any recourse because what they're doing isn't necessarily legal in the first place. So again, I don't see how having a
what they're doing is they're paying them cash under the table.
Real license or a digital license is necessarily affecting, the illegal worker economy. Okay, the thing is, people who are breaking the law as employers are still going to continue to break the law. Now, some of the things that they do say in their entire page actually does kind of make sense, okay? So to give you an idea, they do say that all of the IDs are stored literally on your device. So it's got the best-in-class security, state-of-the-art encryption that is already protecting millions of transactions daily. So they're kind of using similar like technology to how you use Apple Pay and Google Wallet, which do not store a copy of your actual, credit card. In fact, what they have is a, virtual credit card that is usually communicated and created on the fly with the bank. And all of that information is stored locally on your device. So as far as people saying that there's like a centralized database into this, of course, the majority of your actual information seems to be staying on your device. The digital credentials will be stored directly on your device.
Wait, I thought they were able to hack into your phone to get all your information. From what I remember, even that was like a few years ago. I've seen that on YouTube. I'll have to look it up again.
And that's according to the government here, so trust them at your own behest.
So it's not so secure as they say, right?
So the new digital ID will be authoritative proof of someone is in this country legally. It'll therefore include name, date of birth, information on nationality or residency status, and a photo. So of course the other big thing about this, obviously they're trying to combat some form of ID spoofing in a way too, because obviously people come in with fake credentials, people come in with overstayed like credentials at times, and I guess having a digital system makes it so that if you want to immediately reject something, it will immediately be reflected on the mobile app. So no trying to pull the wool over any government eyes when they can clearly and very quickly rapidly see if something is expired or invalidated, which is kind of important, and it's kind of a good point to be bringing up. Now, obviously, the people have not been taking too kindly to this. That petition is increasing pretty fucking rapidly, of course, as you can see. So what are some of the actual things that people have brought up, and where is there some level of misinfo? So, for instance, if you go into My Dog Muppet here, who posted, resident registration was used in Weimar, Germany, post-1900. It was brought in 1938. Jews were forced to carry identity cards stamped with a J and to adopt the names Sarah or Israel as middle names. Passports were also marked for Jews and other deemed undesirables. Drafting men into the Wehrmacht, locating asocials, Roma, political opponents, and especially Jews for deportation, implementing racial laws like the Nuremberg Laws, which require tracing ancestry via vital records. So perhaps Starmer, who is the PM of the UK, is a closet admirer of all things Nazi. Now again, digital ID by itself isn't necessarily equating anybody to the Third Reich. But I think the idea here is that, listen, they're introducing this thing as a way to say we're fighting against illegal workers, which I don't know the efficacy of this. It would be a lot better if the government said we're using this to fight people who are faking ID cards and passports and credentials that are used to...
I don't understand how they could fake it though. Don't they have a database? It's the same thing.
Abuse the country. That would probably make more sense. I don't know who the fucking PR teams for the UK government are, but they always stick their feet in fucking bear traps. Now, for some people, it's actually a pretty good thing and it's more convenient. And this user brings up a pretty interesting point. Driving licenses aren't a full ID as it doesn't prove residence, nor whether you can work or not, which is true. Actually, many people in Canada can, for instance, get a driver's license. Now, obviously, this has your address, so it should technically prove my, address, unless a UK license is substantially different. But nowhere on this actual license does it say that I'm a citizen or an immigrant or a permanent resident. And a lot of those different connotations can affect your work status in the country. So again, to go further into it, a passport is physical. I mean, it could be digital, and it doesn't have tracked use checked against central databases, except at the border. It's only for citizens. The ID doesn't have to be. It could be held by ILR or Visa, and it doesn't reflect anything like your benefit situations. Example, when LA needs to do a means test. So again, this is all UK-oriented stuff. So for the UK guys, you probably understand it. For the rest of the world, these are all just random, words for me. Or your eligibility for NHS treatment. I know what the NHS is. Passports are also static. They have a set amount of info that's printed and can stay that way for years to decades. An ID is updated with eligibility and changes to your status. And that's pretty important, right? When you get a passport, You know, for me, my passport was made like last year. So for the next 9 years, it's probably going to stay exactly the fucking same. My ID, however, requires me to at least have this constantly renewed. For instance, this expires in 2030. So, wow, that's actually a pretty big expiration date. Jesus Christ. But yeah, this is something that I'll constantly have to be getting updated. But a digital ID can be updated even faster. It can be the changes can be reflected. So I guess if the idea is you want to have you know, a more accurate representation of what that person is in the country at the time, digital ID, I guess, is the way to go, because anyone in the government can update it to, you know, to what they want reflected. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of individuals, okay? Tom Warren from the War Verge was like, no thanks, checkpoint Britain, the dangers of digital ID and why privacy must be protected. So here they use the prime minister themselves. They brought up their immigration status, right to work, right to rent, and of course the expiry. So, you know, it seems almost big brothery, right? Could the government control, you know, where the fuck you wanted to work, if you could work, if you could rent? The thing about it is that a lot of times this already does exist. So this is why I wanted to kind of cut the fear-mongering stuff a little bit. You know, for a lot of people that brought up these image macros. So this one right here says, it's the loss of privacy. Every move, purchase, or interaction could be logged or monitored. And this is not something that is, you know, impossible to do. Right now, if the government of Canada...
If you guys missed the previous video, you guys should watch it. It was my my very first video when I started the live stream.
wanted to know what the fuck I was buying, okay, they could go and subpoena my bank information. I'm pretty sure the cops can do that. I'm pretty sure the CRA could do that. I'm pretty sure any federal agency in Canada, if they really wanted to and had a sufficient enough reason, could pull that out, right? But of course, it kind of makes it a little bit easier if, again, the concept of a digital ID being pinged is something that the government can pull up a lot quicker than warrants going to banks. But we'll get to that towards the end of the video. Centralized control. Whoever runs the system holds enormous power over your daily life. And that could be true, right? Like if the government can now decide on that ID card, hey, you're allowed to work, you're allowed to rent, you're allowed to do whatever it is, right? And they can change that at any moment. Yeah, if it's used nefariously.
Sounds like China. They control every aspect of your life.
Sure, it could affect somebody poor. And you might be like, but Muda, would the government really do that? The thing is, do you trust the government to be 100% fair with a system like this? For me, I really do have the best intentions, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there with very valid reasons as to why they wouldn't want the government or any of these tech agencies to be deciding what the system, has on you or not. Data breaches. Huge databases are irresistible.
Mudahar is trying to hold the middle ground. He's scared.
Targets for hackers
He doesn't want to
risking
say
your
it.
identity. And the thing is, a data breach can still affect you even if digital ID doesn't exist. There's a lot of places, there's a lot of stuff you've probably heard where social insurance numbers have been leaked. Hell, these people could hack an internet service provider or any of these like tech companies and dig out people's personal information, which usually could contain things like addresses, email.
They already have. Some of the banks have been hacked into, Xbox, PlayStation, so many.
And whatnot. So you don't necessarily need this, government ID system to be hacked. However, it does raise the question, if tech companies that are already, fighting against this kind of stuff, cybersecurity wise, are having a tough time in today's day and age, I don't really trust any fucking government to be able to protect my shit. So then, exclusion, no ID, no access, people could be locked out of work, healthcare, travel, or even shopping. And the thing is, this is not digital ID exclusive. I want you to remember, this is something that easily could have happened and still does happen with traditional IDs. For instance, if you don't have an ID, if you don't have a health card, right, you may not be, privy to certain services in my province. If you don't have IDs, you may not be privy to certain things. Having a digital or physical ID doesn't necessarily, a digital ID doesn't necessarily mean you'll be excluded. You already can be excluded. Now, of course, you've also got freedom erosion. Once this becomes required, reversing it will be almost impossible. And I guess that's kind of true for any form of ID. I sincerely doubt back in the day, we used to have horse and buggy licenses, right? But obviously, as cars were introduced, driver's licenses were brought in, and it was something that, immediately, it was something that came in, took a little bit to, for people to get used to, but eventually it just became the norm. And digital ID, I don't doubt, is going to end up becoming the norm, because the reason I'm talking about it is I might not be a United Kingdom guy, but I can tell you right now, for a country like Canada, for a country like the United States, for a lot of places, this is going to be the future. If digital ID is something that kind of fucking scares you, remember, I was actually at the LAX a few days ago, and at the LAX, what was so wild was that for, I guess, domestic people traveling, they have to have like US biometrics, like something about like real Face ID or some shit like that, where again, all these digital systems are being implemented. Now, a lot of people have brought up digital surveillance as a thing. And one of the things that got brought up with the United Kingdom was, according to some of the guys over at Hacker News, when you look at things like what the UK is already doing with things like the Online Safety Act, which again is not really going all that well. In fact, it's really funny that the Australian version, literally yesterday, everyone was laughing at them because they started targeting places like GitHub. So kids are unsafe from a code writing platform because I guess it could be used as a social media service. It really feels like most of the internet is being locked down, especially places that don't fucking need to be, okay? All because we wanted to protect children from, adult movies, which is noble, but we can see the effect of what happens when governments introduce a law that ultimately affects far more than it ever actually should have. You also got situations like the Snoopers Charter, which, again, I have to verify this myself, but ISPs can keep records on you.
It's always like the very few that do something wrong, but they want to go ahead and implement laws against basically everyone. So they don't want anyone access to certain websites. Shouldn't be the case.
Which is actually true for most of these Five Eyes countries. Canada does this. The United States does this. I would be surprised of a country that doesn't necessarily do this. So of course you've also got, the UK and of course the EU requiring encryption backdoors, things like chat controls. This is a set of countries that wants to get rid of encryption. They want to get rid of any form of online privacy. So all of this being said, when you look at the relationship that the government has with organizations like Palantir, for instance, where I believe, at least for the UK, they ended up getting like over $1 billion worth of contracts when it came to defenses. So all of these things combined, look, the future of the internet and the future of the world is headed towards this digital state, right? And one of the things that really gets me on a surveillance level is this. So I want you to ride this scenario with me really quickly. Let's say in the future, right? You want to go you want to go onto like, I don't know, a social media site, right? You want to go to Reddit and voice your concerns on the government or really anything. Now to access Reddit, you need to build an account, and in the UK, you need to provide an identification for said account. Now right now, there's a way to bypass that. If you live in the United Kingdom, you can get VPNs like Mullvad. And the reason I bring up Mullvad is that you really don't need to identify yourself to purchase from them. If you have cryptocurrency, or if you're just mailing cash to them, you literally can build a Mullvad account without any identifying characteristics and get access to a pretty solid VPN. You can then use Mullvad to connect to countries that currently do not require you to provide identification. So a lot of the UK people, overnight, when the OSA was launched, they were like, oh, fuck, let's get a VPN and move on through there. So they were bypassing the state surveillance apparatus right there. But let's imagine down the world, right? Like, let's imagine by 2030, by 2035, 2040 even, let's say it takes that long. Most of the world, most of the countries in the world now require you to use any form of internet access. They require you to use digital ID. So Canada requires you to use it. The United States federally requires you to use it. Fucking France does, every large country. And what happens is, even if you start VPNing to countries that you once thought were safe, you now need to provide IDs. But not just IDs, you now need to provide IDs for that country. So the whole VPN shit just goes out and bust. Now you have to go back to the UK and provide your ID to access Reddit or any of these websites. Now the reason why this hits me on a surveillance level is that, the anonymity that we once had, in our day-to-day life, that privacy, that, just tiny bit we could use to fight government surveillance, that gets taken away. Because now, in order to access most of these sites where you talk about your social media stuff, or you discuss things with, or you air your grievances, they will all require you to use IDs, or they just won't be servicing your country. So now, if the government ever wants to look into that database or just subpoena which, sites pinged that ID number, that digital ID, they now have an entire idea of you accessing certain websites. Before, it could be kind of run in a situation where you can go to like a public...
Man, what fascinates me is how people are allowing this to happen. Drinking all that fluoride is kind of working, isn't it?
Wi-Fi, access the internet through like an anonymized like system.
It's too lazy to do anything.
Generally be okay. But now, because your ID is so tied to you as a person and how you interact on the internet, this is a way for, in my opinion at least, I think
tracking.
It's mostly a pathway for government surveillance. I don't really think the government gives a shit about like, stopping the illegal immigrants from like working in the country. There are already systems in place to do that. I don't think employers, who are illegally hiring people are going to fucking give a shit about this. But that's just where my mind comes into, okay? And the reason I'm talking about it is because, dude, down the road, it's not far-fetched to think this can't happen to me in Canada, okay? Or the United States when I choose to go down there, okay? My kids in the future who are Americans, they'll have to deal with this shit if, God forbid, their states or federally this passes. It's one of the reasons why, people are like, man, you're a Canadian. Why are you so worried about this shit? Because I know the writing on the wall, okay? I know the fucking future. You don't have to be Nostradamus to see if it works in one of the biggest countries in the world that it can't eventually be passed down. And all the time, these politicians will always use bullshit reasoning to make this stuff pass. When in reality, they don't care about any of this stuff. This is just a way for them to fit more surveillance into your life.
Now you say all this?
It's one of the reasons why I'm not for digital IDs. I don't think that there's enough of a positive benefit that you get
speak up.
out of this technology right now, and maybe even in the fucking future, even comparing itself to like traditional physical identification cards. But, and then again, comment section is rife for debate on this. Let me know what you think. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.
So, all right, one more video, and then we're done. Let's see what Osmond Gold has to say.
So this is the Prime Minister of the UK. I know you're worried about the level of illegal migration into this country. Digital ID is another measure to make it tougher to work illegally here, making...
Just like he said, they always use an excuse to bring on tougher laws against us.
Our borders more secure. The UK is now actually pushing digital ID. I said it was going to take like a couple of years. It turns out it didn't even take a couple of months.
Well, folks, it looks like the conspiracy theorists were right yet again, because just a couple of days ago, Keir Starmer announced that we're all going to be getting a digital ID. Compulsory, not optional. Mandatory. You must have one. And maybe you're thinking, well, this doesn't sound too bad, because I'm kind of used to having things on my phone by now. My debit cards, my credit cards, my boarding pass to get on a flight. And after all,
this is going to be completely normalized across Western countries in probably 5 years. I know some people are saying that they won't use it. I think that the amount of people that are saying that and the amount of people that will actually do it will be a very different number. Because once people start experiencing inconveniences because they're not complying with this feature, and once there are punishments and things like that for not complying with it, people will immediately start doing it.
So, but I thought the whole purpose of a government was for them to follow what we the people want.
Keir has promised that this
What are your thoughts on the mark of the beast? I don't think this is the mark of the beast. It's an ID. It's just simply not the mark of the beast. I mean, like, I understand your point, but it's just categorically not that.
Be used to tackle illegal working.
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Wow.
No work.
That's a pretty big one, huh? Oh my God. I want to remind you guys that V for Vendetta was in Europe, and it was pretty obviously in the UK.
Simple as that.
Well, strap in, because this is the death of liberty. This is nothing to do with proving whether you can legally work. We already have systems in place for that. This is about the
That's what I
state
said.
knowing everything about you, all of your bank details, how often you've visited the hospital, your social media accounts. All of them will
realistically, the government already knows that. And I do want to say this, that we do have a false sense of privacy in...
Well, I think they just want to make it official now with this so-called term of digital ID.
Western countries. If the government didn't know that, how do you think that they're arresting people every single day for tweeting? Well, it's because they just figure it out. This just makes it easier.
Eventually be attacked.
I think there's just a bunch of Karens right now that are reporting a lot of comments. That happened to me on Facebook. I got freaking, what do you call it? Shadow banned on Facebook for a while. I think I still am. So I don't ever use Facebook anymore. Once in a blue moon.
To your digital ID. The state will know everything about you and they will be able to totally control you. This is a digital prison. Oh, Lander, that all sounds a little bit crazy. I don't think the British people would stand for that. I agree. Right now,
they are trying to push back against it, and I think that people will they will effectively resist against it for a period of time. But then what's going to happen is that there will be a series of emergencies and a series of tragedies and a series of crucial events that occur that will make people more accepting of digital ID as a way to prevent future tragedies and future catastrophes from happening. That's what I think is going to happen.
Good point.
I think, again, like the best...
I think he's referring to like false flag operations, maybe.
Best example that I can use is the Patriot Act, right? I think that we can always, you know, go back to that. And I think this is going to follow a similar paradigm.
They wouldn't, but this will take place over 10, 15, 20 years. More and more things will start getting added to your digital ID. Eventually, it'll be your bank accounts, then it'll be your social media accounts, and every single time, there'll be an excuse from the government about why this needs
South Korea already has this.
To be added.
Yes.
Or we need to tackle fraud. Or we need to tackle social media misinformation and hate speech. Everything will get attached to your digital ID, and the state will know everything about you. Over a long period of time. I'm not saying this happens straight away, but this is the first step. And we simply cannot stand for it.
Yeah, it will be like boiling a frog, where you don't even know that you're getting cooked until you've already been cooked.
I know as well there's going to be people out there saying,
I think a great example of that is cameras everywhere. The ubiquitous nature of cameras now, I think that like in the 90s and the 2000s, people were like paranoid about that. Like, oh, there's cameras everywhere. But now people have just accepted it as a natural reality. And birds, true.
I trust the government, which honestly is kind of an insane position with everything we've seen over the past 15, 20 years. But okay, you trust the government. You trust Keir Starmer. Do you trust the next government? Well, it's going to be Nigel Farage. Do you trust the government in 15 years or in 20 years' time to have total knowledge and total control over you? Do you trust them? If you're saying yes, you're an idiot because you don't even know what that government could look like.
In my opinion, and this might be an unpopular opinion, I think digital ID is inevitable, but digital ID and people's worry about it is a symptom and not a disease. The disease effectively are the laws that digital ID will make it easier to enforce. So what I mean by that is that the real issue is that, you know, for example, digital ID isn't going to stop somebody from saying that I like ice cream. It is going to stop somebody from saying something that could go against the UK speech laws, for example. So really the focus should not be, because I do, and if you want to fight and resist against digital ID, I respect you, more power to you. I think it's completely inevitable and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Sorry, that's my opinion. That being said, I do think that there is an ability and a possibility to change the laws. You need to change the laws.
This is a communist.
The way he's thinking is a pretty weak-minded person. If the people got together and you know, banded together against this, I think it's possible to stop it.
And a fascist wet dream.
It's a fact, not
the
an
East
opinion.
German
That's where I think
Stasi
things are
could
gonna
never
go.
have dreamed.
2,700,000 people are against it. So what? like 60 or 70 million people were against Donald Trump, and he's the president.
The tool
They
this
voted
powerful.
against
And you know
Donald Trump.
what? We've actually already experienced a little bit of this, haven't we?
Do you remember the COVID vaccine passports? Those smug little green screens that barred the unjabbed from everyday life, serving as a blatant Orwellian tool of coercion and division. Well, if you didn't take the government at face value...
I worked in the medical field for 20 years, and I could not believe that this was happening.
let alone dared challenge them, you faced life-changing decisions.
I think this is a great point that he's making, is that, you know, a good example of how digital ID will be used and could be used is the dystopian way that it was used with COVID. It's actually a good
Travel
point.
abroad or be grounded at home. Keep your job or face financial ruin.
Yep.
See your family or stay isolated alone. Those were some of the choices the government often told you you had to make. Comply or shut up. That is the raw, unchecked power governments can wield when given the tools, and digital ID hands them the sharpest blade possible.
That's also, I think that's a very good metaphor to use, because they can already do all of the things that they can do with digital ID without digital ID. Digital ID just makes it easier for them to do them. Digital ID does not add in a new tool.
Oh, it basically gives them, not only does it make it official, it gives them the law to do it. The law backs them up, basically.
And it does not increase.
That's why you guys got to vote against it.
The amount of ways that the government can, like, control you. It only gives the existing ways an easier path to doing it, basically.
It paves the way for far worse down the line, doesn't it? One
does.
authoritarian regime later, and you, your children, and their children could face being sent to camps based on ethnicity, political views, religion, or even health status, as we've already seen. But why stop there?
I mean, I think there's a degree of fear-mongering here, but there's also a degree of truth.
Not
I'm sorry, I don't see any fear-mongering here at all.
link your social media profiles, algorithmically scoring your influence and loyalty to the government.
I want you to think about China for a second. China operates a social credit system. Now, the way that works is there are tons of algorithms out there assessing each individual person within China and how...
I'm not sure how legit the social... Like, I really actually don't know a lot about this. Again, I could look at, like, South Korea versus China. Both countries, however, like South Korea had this thing where if you... They would do, like, a thing where they would check your phone. They could geolocate your phone during COVID, and they would send you notifications that you had to respond to. It was something like that.
That's crazy.
Well, they comply with or resist
to make sure you
the
didn't
state.
leave your phone at home
The more
and go
you
outside.
comply with the state, the better your life will be. The more you resist the state, the worse your life will be. The more that they will punish you. And those systems rely on two things that are currently being introduced across the UK and across Europe. Digital ID and facial recognition. We're seeing it everywhere, all across Europe and all across the UK.
And you can see digital ID will curb populism. And I think it's kind of crazy to me that they just come out and literally say it. They literally say that we're trying to do digital ID so we can stop people from having political viewpoints. That's crazy to me.
Both of those things are essential to bringing in a social credit system. And the end result is, well, the Chinese people cannot possibly resist their own government. Their government can do pretty much whatever they want to the Chinese people, and they will do nothing. Because at any given moment, the Chinese government can make life absolutely hell. Basically just turn off the taps for any Chinese citizen. Is that really the future that you want for Europe and the future that you want for the UK? Maybe you want to travel...
I definitely don't. I mean, I don't think so.
Somewhere and you're trying to book a plane ticket, but according to your digital ID, you've already met your carbon quota for the year. So no, try again in a few months. Instead, you try and get a few beers.
I think that's very realistic.
Dang, it looks like it did pass. June 4th of 2023, U.S. Digital Identity Bill passes through Senate. Global Government Forum. U.S. poised for national digital ID rollout. Interesting.
From the shop because you're having a barbecue with some friends, but guess what? You've met your alcohol quota for the month, so no, you can't do that either. I'll just sit at home and browse Twitter and go on my social media platforms, but you can't do that either because you're locked out of all of them. Why? You offended someone. Come back in 2 weeks, but if you take this correctional training to improve your wrong think, well, we'll narrow that down to a week.
I think all of his examples are like 3 years away. Maybe the food example's 5. But other than that, I feel like these are really, really possible.
I know that this is a very bleak and dystopian future.
Yeah.
And am I saying that it would definitely happen? No. Am I saying it could happen? Well, it could happen only if such a thing as digital ID exists and it has these sprawling tentacles in
it can happen regardless. They can do it without digital ID, but yeah.
Part of your life. The digital, well, not the digital ID, the state will control your life or have the ability to control your life and the rights that you have.
Do they think we won't revolt? No, I don't think people will revolt for digital ID. I know that everybody says that they will. I don't actually think that they will.
Access that you have to everything through this ID.
That's my opinion.
Do not give the state the ultimate power over all of its citizens. You will never be able to resist. Don't give the state that power. Expect that if you give the state a power, it will be used against you. Now, I know Keir Starmer's out there trying to convince people that this is some kind of plan to tackle illegal migrants working, but guess what? He's lying to you. It's bullshit.
Well, they're co-opting an issue that they created in order to push a degree of control. This is kind of what I was saying before. Like, if you guys remember me saying this a lot, is that I always wonder if some of the reasons why the government allows things to get as bad as it does is because it creates a situation where people will accept the government taking an authoritarian solution to a problem because they're so sick of the problem. It's kind of like how the Philippines elected Duterte because of how bad drug dealers were in there.
Every job I've ever had, I already prove my identification. I show them my driving license or my passport and my national insurance number. It's very simple.
Well, you create a situation that people will solve with any means necessary, and then you create the means that are necessary, which are not in their benefit.
Already have systems in place.
Create a problem,
Foreigners
solve the
working in the
solution.
country, they have to show an electronic visa. They basically already have a digital ID only for the foreigners who have those visas. It's nonsense what he's suggesting. The people who are working illegally, they bypass all of those systems, and guess what? They'll bypass your digital ID as well. They'll still find loopholes around it like they do with Deliveroo, like they do at the car washes. And look, the government knows where all of these people are and where they're working. Go to any migrant hotel and guess...
If the government wants to invest resources into finding somebody, they will find them. I would say 99 times out of 100. The only reason why they don't find a lot of these people is because they just simply don't care. And it's not that important. 100 times out of 100? Probably, yeah.
What, there's 50 Deliveroo bikes outside, but the government doesn't want to do anything about it. Let me just put this argument to bed once and for all. How are you going to prove who you are to get your digital ID?
Yeah, you know what, guys? I think they're gonna reset. They're gonna do the reset. I forgot what the actual term was. Oh, the Great Reset has to happen before the digital ID actually begins, because it's going to be a whole set of new systems that's going to govern the entire world, not just the US, the UK. It's all going to be like one.
You're probably going to have to go somewhere and show them your passport and your national insurance number. Well, guess what? If you can do that, you can already prove your citizenship. It's that simple.
Yep.
So when he's trying to tell you this is a way to tackle illegal migrants working,
well, it is, but it's also not necessary. There are already tools required to do that to begin with, and you don't need digital ID in order to stop illegal migrants from working. They're creating an imaginary, this is like an imaginary like situation where it's like, oh, the only way we can solve this is digital ID. No, it's not. There are a lot of other ways to solve it.
Nonsense.
It's like saying the only way to lose weight is to cut off your leg. No, I could think of other ways too.
Knows where they're working,
cut your arm off
knows how to stop it, but they simply won't do it. Leave the ECHR, repeal the HRA, deport people. They won't do it, and that's the problem. They're trying to pretend that this is their solution because they don't want to deal with the actual solution because, hey, that sounds like a lot of hard work. Do not listen to Keir Starmer.
Somebody in chat said it's a solution looking for a problem. And I think that's a really great way to explain digital ID. A solution looking for a problem.
Lines about how this is going to tackle the illegal migrant crisis. It isn't. Okay, let's imagine
What
for
a
a second
surprise.
that my philosophical arguments about the death of liberty and walking into a digital prison haven't managed to convince you that this is a terrible idea. Well, let's look at some practical considerations instead. Estonia's digital ID system hacked. The NHS hacked. India's digital ID system hacked. Because guess what? Wherever there's valuable data, and this is going to be the most valuable data, there are people trying to steal it. I almost guarantee that will happen here in the UK. Another practical consideration, cost.
This happens all the time. It happens with private companies too. Sony, it happens with them. What are they like? What's the quota for Sony? Like maybe once every 2 years?
This will end up costing a fortune. Just like HS2 was meant to be just a railway from London to Birmingham, high speed 2, 20 billion pounds or whatever they said it was going to cost. Now it's going to cost 160 billion pounds. Fantastic. And you're going to think, oh, well, that's because it's a physical thing. That's harder to build.
Sorry, I almost forgot to turn on my mic. The digital IDs are going to be, I think, incongruent with digital currency. Basically, they will control your, and see how much you have in your banks. There won't be any more dollar. It'll be all digital money.
Surprise! The problems with building HS2 did not come from the, hey.
And that's why I think the Great Reset has to happen first.
Come on. Don't go on the road. The problems with building HS2 did not come from the physical aspect. It was from politicians chopping and changing what they wanted all of the time, messing with the plan. The same thing will happen to digital ID, and it'll end up costing 100 billion, 200 billion. Who knows? We can't even get the NHS.
Imagine spending $200 billion in a system just for it to get hacked in the first month.
Working on one system. Why do you think you can build a digital ID?
It'd be pretty bad.
Absolutely ridiculous. And the final practical consideration, and in many ways this is actually the worst. And
Swiss have accepted digital ID already. Well, China's already accepted it. South Korea has already accepted it. You said Swiss have already accepted it. This will become the norm. And I think the reason why is that there are too many normies on the internet, and there were two flashpoints that brought normies onto the internet. The first one was Harambe, and the second one was COVID. And now, bro, like, it's cooked. It's over. It's finished. Poland too, unfortunately. Yeah, this is the way it's going to be.
Like, most people are so comfortable and they don't really care, you know? They're just going to follow along. It's easier to do that.
Bit of a philosophical consideration as well.
Yeah.
What about people who don't have smartphones or who can't use them?
Somebody's not a
Pensioners,
loser.
people who are over 65, 70, a lot of you are able to use smartphones, but you must look around at some of your friends and think, oh, you know, if you're 70 years old, you look at a friend who doesn't use a smartphone and cannot use one.
That was my dad.
So how are they going to
and my
have a
mom.
digital ID? How are they going to access their pension? How are they going to access the NHS? How are they going to access...
Wait a minute. So you're telling me you're going to make all the old people use a smartphone in order to get their money?
Right? What about all the other people who are, I guess, mentally handicapped and they don't know how to use a phone? Or they can't?
This sounds to me more like a feature than a bug. You know?
Social media. How are they going to be able to vote? Because it wouldn't surprise me if your digital ID gets linked to voting.
That's
Maybe
evil?
they'll even
Yeah.
know who you voted for. That'll be secretly kept on record. Very undemocratic, that. In fact, and this idea just occurred to me, and it's very, very cynical, maybe by the time of the next election, you will need a digital ID to vote. And that way, Labour's hoping they can get rid of a few million pensioners and sneak back in.
Smart.
I don't know if that's true. I haven't really given that much thought. But the practical considerations are one thing, but I don't want you to get dragged down in them because they are secondary to what the future could look like if we actually allow this to come in. And the future could look very bleak. Remarkably, this policy is actually so bad that almost everybody outside of the Labour Party is united against it. And I'm talking about Jeremy Corbyn, Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, Ed Davey and Owen Jones. These are people involved in politics on completely opposite ends of the political spectrum. And they all know that this is a terrible, terrible idea. It's the death of liberty. I will keep saying it. But what's that? You want to know where Kemi Badenoch sits on all of this? Well, she's come out...
Oh, you know what? I'm going to watch one more video after this because I really like the Jimmy Dore show. He is amazing. So we're going to watch that video. Right after Osman Gold.
Said, oh, there are arguments for it and against it.
Of course,
Kemi
it's the same with
Badenoch,
everything.
the Tories, it's just part of the uni party. Of course, they're not going to come out with a strong stance. It's very, very pathetic, frankly, to be sitting on the fence about this, especially since I imagine a lot of the people who are still voting Tory are actually a little bit older, and they are going to be opposed to something like digital ID, especially the ones who don't have...
I don't think that's true. I think that he's wrong about that. I think that older people will actually embrace the idea of this because they don't fully understand the context of how the internet works. That's what I think is going to happen. And that's the main reason why I think that we're going to have a lot of these laws, is that for older people, they're going to see that, well, I need an ID I got a driver's license. You probably need a Facebook license. Shit. And I think that's all it's going to be. Older people are more likely to conform. Yeah, exactly.
Have access to smartphones like I was talking about before, but hey,
I don't think so. Old people aren't all like this. I agree with you. I don't think that every single old person will have the same stereotypical viewpoint that I am giving to them. But I think that enough of them will be that it will be a majority.
Badenoch, the Tories, Labour,
and if it's not, all they have to do is wait to pass this until there's another terrorist attack, and then right after that, pass it. Then they'll all vote for it.
They'll vote,
That's what
yeah.
I would do. That's what we did with the Patriot Act. Never let a tragedy go to waste.
That's what they say.
Yep. And let me just say this. This is a real truth bomb that I'm going to drop on you here. Real discussion in Parliament disappeared a long time ago. They created the illusion that these two parties, Labour and the Conservatives, were actually disagreeing or debating topics by shouting and jeering and personal insults. You know, whenever you turn it on...
Wait a minute, did Osman Gold just drink Coca-Cola out of a glass bottle? Interesting.
Prime Minister's questions, it's just... Ray, Ray. It's pathetic.
Well, we have this in America. Like, for example, both parties unilaterally support Israel. There's not a political party that you can be a part of in America that has any sort of real weight to it that is a party that promotes not being invested in Israel's success in the Middle East. This is just like we have this issue here.
Oh, wait, I think by both parties, he means just the politicians, not the citizens, because I think the citizens have actually woken up and they do not support Israel anymore.
But actually, in terms of real significant political difference between these two parties, there's basically nothing. They create the illusion of debate and discussion and difference so that you feel good when you go to the polls. But since Tony Blair, these two parties have basically been exactly the same. So don't be surprised that Kemi Badenoch is coming out with a very weak position. And actually, you know what? There are even people within the Labour Party, to their credit, I guess. I mean, I don't really like Clive Lewis, but Clive Lewis within the Labour Party has come out against this. He said that, no, this is absolutely terrible. A few final thoughts from me, because I feel like I've talked for quite a long time and this is going to be a long video. This was not in the Labour Party manifesto.
What a
Keir Starmer
surprise.
did not talk about this when he was asking for your vote because he didn't want to have people like me telling you what the...
Because it's something that's not popular. And it's only popular whenever you can take advantage of people's fear. That's the reason why.
This is really about. In fact, a year ago, take a listen to what Keir was saying.
You have given us a clear mandate, and we will use it to deliver change, to restore service and
This
respect
guy's such a fucking limp dick. Like, it's amazing that he even got elected or anybody is listening to him at all.
to politics. End the
He
era of
is.
noisy performance.
It's obvious.
Tread more lightly on your lives.
Starmer promised that he would tread more lightly on your life, but I guess
Sure.
he's changed his mind.
Well,
Because
no,
now-
he was only saying that to migrants.
Now he's bringing in digital ID, Tony Blair's wet dream, the basis of a mass surveillance and control protocol in Britain. This is the sound of Keir Starmer treading lightly on your life. Yeah, I don't think so. Look, what can we do about this? How can we stop this? Well, there is a petition. There's always a petition. It's getting close to 2 million
Apparently,
signatures.
it's almost already at 3 million signatures now.
I'll link it in the description. I do recommend you sign it. And yes, I know there's always a petition. The government always ignores the petition.
2.7 million.
However, because this isn't a left-right issue, and a lot of people are very concerned about this, if this petition manages to get close to 10 million signatures, which is a huge aim, by the way, I think that would be the most signed petition ever, then I think they really do have to scrap it. Because This wasn't in the Labour Party manifesto, and about 10 million people actually voted for the Labour Party.
They're just going to do it.
If there are more people who are saying no to digital ID, something that wasn't even in the Labour manifesto, then voted for the Labour Party when they were more popular like a year ago.
Yeah, I don't know about this one,
how they
guys.
can continue with it. It just becomes very, very obvious tyranny. That it's not democracy anymore. That is just tyranny. So yes, I do recommend you go and sign it. Will the government?
I mean, you should sign the petition, right? I mean, at least, you know, try to push back. I don't think it's going to have an effect, but like, fuck, you might as well do something, right?
Or it probably if it doesn't get enough signatures, but that's all the more reason
People
for you
need
to
to
go
grow
and
some
put a signature
balls,
there.
you know.
The other way you can resist is just
Grow some balls.
or resist. I don't plan
could
to get a
sign it.
digital
I'm
ID,
not
and I
from the
think
UK.
there are a lot of people who won't. And if there's enough people who just say no, I'm not doing that, then the whole system will just fall apart. Like,
he's right.
What are you saying? If 30% of the country resists having a digital ID, are you just going to make 30% of the people in the country unemployed because they won't have a digital ID? It's not going to work. Similar thing happened with.
I don't. He's completely right theoretically, but
I think I know what he's going to say. I think people are just going to give in, you know. There's going to be a point where they're going to be hungry, thirsty. Their heat or their AC might be turned off, their water, electricity.
I don't really think that like there's a lot
Might
of
just
great
give in.
examples of mass civil disobedience like that. Like there's activist groups that, you know, exercised large amounts of civil disobedience, like civil rights, for example. But like mass population civil disobedience, I can't really think of an example of that.
The vaccine mandates, by the way, after a while, people were just like, look, I'm not paying attention to this anymore, and the whole thing kind of fell apart. So that's what we have to do. We have to resist this. It really is very simple. Okay, truly, this is the last point from me, I promise, because I know this is going to be a long video. A couple of days ago, I made a video called Keir Starmer is Finished, and in it, I basically outlined all of the reasons that I think Keir Starmer's time as Prime Minister is coming to an end. I'm not going to repeat everything in this video, but basically, his own MPs are talking about...
I think that's true, though.
Getting rid of him.
I feel like
There's
nobody
lots of
likes him.
financial scandals. His cabinet ministers have had to resign in disgrace. Now, there's a really cynical part of me which thinks Keir Starmer, or Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff, so desperately wanted all of those scandals to go away.
What a
that
surprise.
they thought, what if we just put one much bigger, much more controversial, much worse story out, and that's going
I just realized this dude is just walking through his farmland. That's pretty cool.
to soak up all of the headlines.
Wish I had a
People will
farm.
stop talking about the 740 grand illegal slush fund we used to make Keir Starmer Prime Minister. They'll stop talking
That's
about
pretty
all of
cheap.
the tax dodging,
Yeah, it's
Labour
really
MPs
cheap. Damn.
and corruption
We
scandals
got
and
a good
everything
deal.
else. And to an extent, you know, it has worked. All of the headlines now are talking about digital ID. So I would say, yes, we should be talking about digital ID. Clearly, I am doing it because I think it's terrible. But at the same time,
Digital ID is happening all over the world. I think that to say that they're doing this as a smokescreen for other problems, I think that there are always happy accidents that happen in government where they take advantage of them. But I also think this is a clear political zeitgeist that's happening all over the world right now. And it's not unique to the UK at all.
go and watch that video if you haven't already. Don't let Keir Starmer and his grubby little team get away with all of the things they've been doing in the past.
Not mandatory, though? Oh, it will be.
I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I know this is going to end up being a long video. If you've made it all this way, I'm really, really grateful.
Thank you.
Hopefully you found
Thank you.
some of what I was saying interesting.
Maybe you're welcome.
Some of the arguments, some of the points. And let me know your thoughts. I always read and reply
That was
to
a
a
good
few of your
talk.
comments. Can't reply to all of them, unfortunately, but I do read even a lot more than I actually reply to. So yeah.
I'll link
Until
you
next
guys the
time,
video.
please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.
Let's see.
I think the big problem is the fact that the laws
which stinks.
exist that digital ID is activating on. And I think that digital ID, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion. People hate this opinion. They do not like this opinion. I think digital ID is inevitable. I do think so. I think that there are too many people that are stupid, naive, and will easily trade away any degree of is that a spider? Any degree of their own personal.
That's true. Let's go ahead and get to the next video. Osman Go is right, though. Could be right.
States to use for people to use as a driver's license. But you'll notice and to understand that that is not a driver's license anymore. That is a federal ID under federal control that the federal government is allowing the states to use for people to use as a driver's license. But you'll notice it's not called a real driver's license, right? It's called a real ID. It is a national ID card. It's a usurpation of states' rights. It's a violation of privacy rights. They plan to digitize it. The DMV has testified to Congress. They plan to digitize it, put it on your phone, and have remote and real-time access to it.
Yikes.
This is happening right now. So I've run up against this. They tell you can't fly unless you have what they call a real ID. Now, I used to just use my driver's license, but that changed recently, and you have to have what they call a real ID, which is not just a state ID anymore. It's a federal ID, really. So this is really wild that we're going against what everybody thinks of America, that you don't need to have this. But here, down here, I want to read this to you. The official purpose of this. It says, the term official purpose includes, but is not limited to, accessing federal facilities. So you need a real ID if you want to access federal facilities. If you want boarding federally regulated commercial aircraft, or entering nuclear power plants. So 2 out of the 3, I'm good. And then it says, and any other purposes that the secretary shall determine. So that means they could use for any.
Dude, it's like wide open. So basically, they're probably going to restrict you from accessing any type of public areas of the United States, like parks, public buildings, etc.
Anything for any reason whatsoever at any time.
Well, Jimmy, you are ahead of the crowd here. The fact that you found that is fantastic, because most people think, oh, this is just about flying. Absolutely not. And that's one of the reasons we as a health freedom organization are in this battle, because we believe it will lead to no card, no care. And not only that, but we know that a lot of people don't have to fly, and they never will fly, or they'll fly only once. And they've already flown that one time, right? But everybody needs access to a doctor. So if Secretary Kristi Noem wanted to force everybody into Real ID, which she does, she could simply take this, because you'll notice that that statement there says the secretary shall determine. And in a rule that the Homeland Security put out back in 2008, they declared that they do not have to go back to the president or to Congress to expand these required purposes. In other words, they are expanding. They have the power to expand restrictions, restricted access, restrictions on travel. You can just imagine if you had to have it to open a bank account, to get married, to buy a gun, to rent a car. You name it. They could come up with a, national security purpose for any of those, right? And so there's absolutely no limit. That is only the floor. The ceiling is endless. So it's really important, for people to understand that what they have in their pocket, if they've got one of those stars. So thank you for having those stars up there in that graphic, because and California has the bear, but everybody else has got some sort of a star. And to understand that that is not a driver's license anymore. That is a federal ID under federal control that the federal government is allowing the states to use for people to use as a driver's license. But you'll notice it's not called a real driver's license, right? It's called a real ID. It is a national ID card.
Let me see if I can find it. Oh, right here. This is what she's talking about. So you see these little stars on your ID? This is what you call real ID. What is a real ID? It is a state-issued driver license, permit or identification card that is also federally accepted. On the upper right. Everyone 18 and older must show real ID to get into certain facilities, federal facilities. I wonder if that's the mark of the beast. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Keep moving. What?
Card. It's a usurpation of states' rights. It's a violation of privacy rights. They plan to digitize it, The DMV has testified to Congress. They plan to digitize it, put it on your phone, and have.
Oh, so this is basically like the beginning of it, of your digital ID. This is the very first step. The next step is to make it digital on your phone. Interesting.
Remote and real-time access to it. And because it's also under biometric control, so the rule, the Real ID rule, says that it needs a biometric facial scanned picture, right? So the picture that is now on there is a biometric picture. And I read that they need to be a biometric picture, they need like 50 points between your two ears. So it's a different kind of picture that's being taken and being put on here. And they have essentially decided that it is they've claimed a right to collect and catalog the coordinates of your body for.
Dude, so I'm wondering if they're using the front-facing cameras. That's why they put them here. So when you're looking at your phone, they're constantly, they know exactly who you are and
their
who has
control and their surveillance. And they just say it's starting with the face, but they say in the future it could be other things. And if states have bowed to the federal government and conformed with the Federal Real ID Act, they have also agreed that when the federal government changes something, the state will change something.
So what is the real what's the real downside to this program, which was, by the way, slipped into a defense authorization bill? How this originally got passed was after 9/11. It was like 2005 or something like that, and it got slipped into a defense authorization bill, like a must pass kind of a thing, and so a lot of the people voting on it weren't really even aware of what was happening. And they never had a hearing on this in the Senate. There was never any public testimony or a hearing or anything. They just went ahead and did this. So what is the real nightmare scenario with this? Is this one of those things where this is going to be tied to your kind of a social credit score, and if you're using too much carbon, if they have a carbon footprint metric, and they could stop you from spending your own money in certain ways, is that what you are afraid of, something like that?
Well, I think that we have to just look at it first and foremost that they've gone completely against the Constitution. And they have said to states that driving is under federal control, identification is under federal control, and as you noted there, and for any other purpose. And so that would mean that travel, transportation, transactions, access, all of these things can be put under federal control under this law. So on its face, it's just unconstitutional. And, the interesting thing about this is that in the very beginning, when the states got wind of this, and you're correct, people didn't get wind of it, although people in the Senate knew what they were voting on, because it was an amazing testimony from the people on the Senate floor. Lamar Alexander's calling it a national identification card and saying we need a public debate on this. Patty Murray, a Democrat, she talked about the fact that there are privacy concerns. We shouldn't do that. I never voted on it, was never in conference committee. So it's not like they didn't know on the Senate floor, right? But then once the states got wind of this, about 30 states came against it. They either wrote laws, passed laws that said we will not comply, or they passed resolutions.
Let me see, which 30 states are there? Was it against digital ID? Let me see, digital ID. What? Wait a minute. So wait a minute. Let's go back. 752.
states came against it, never voted on it, was never in conference committee. So it's not like they didn't know on the Senate floor, right? But then once the states got wind of this, about 30 states came against it. They either wrote laws.
What's going on? What the? And then look what ChatGPT says. There is no evidence that 30 states have voted against digital ID in America. Who is lying? What the heck? Fascinating. That's how sometimes you know that some of these AIs are being controlled. Man.
Passed laws
Programmed.
that said we will not comply, or they passed resolutions that said we object. And so nothing really happened for about 9 years until President Obama stood up and said to the world, you won't be able to fly in 2016 if you don't have a real ID. And that's when the national media picked it up, fanned the flames of fear throughout the entire country. And within about 3 years, all the states had conformed, and rather than standing up like the earlier legislators had. And so, you know, ultimately, this is all about federal control. And as, what's his name in Massachusetts, not Massachusetts, Massey, Congressman Massey said, you won't actually understand how they want to use it until everybody's got it. And, you know, from our perspective, we're going to stop this thing. We're going to make sure everybody does not get it. Because if you look at the national ID cards in other countries, and if you look at the country who's helping them as well as our country create this national ID system, they need it for everything. They basically can't do anything if they don't show their national ID. And so it's no longer about the states, and the states are completely out of the picture. Now it's all about the federal government and whichever administration you have. And
so, okay, they're trying to dismantle states from the government. They're trying to make them all one entity. Trying to get that one, what's it called? The New World Order, basically. One world government.
You are correct about
where you have like only one president that's in charge of the entire globe.
This idea of carbon credits, because the fact of the matter is the liberals really want you to stay in your 15-minute cities. And when it's digitized, put it on your phone, and every time you use it, it pings the government, right? They will know when you leave your 15-minute cities. And certainly there are those who would prefer to tax you for every time that you cost too much.
Dude, that's what they made the 15-minute cities for? They charge you if you go beyond that. Dang.
Use too much carbon.
Yeah, so if you use too much gas or oil or...
But they can take trips on private jets, huh? They don't get taxed. They don't get charged for it.
Electricity or whatever, they can they can do whatever they want.
Right.
So why do you think there isn't, I mean, why aren't people like Rand Paul and Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and whoever, why aren't there more people out there screaming about this than just you?
Yeah. Well, we have Thomas Massey is out there. Ron Paul is out there. Rand Paul is a mystery. I don't know if he's got a plan and he's just not implementing it yet. I'm waiting to see how far this goes because he has never been a supporter of national identification systems. We have worked with him for a long time to stop the unique patient identifier, which was Hillary's plan for one number for all of your medical records. So, you know, it is a mystery to us. We have no idea. But there is a general feeling out there that this is a done deal. But if it's a done deal, then we have lost our freedom in the country because then the federal government is in charge of everything, gets all the information, has all of the control. And this is, you know, we have to stop that to actually keep an America that is free. So the other thing is lots of them just don't understand. Lots don't understand.
So, I mean, I use, so when I fly, I use my passport.
Yeah.
And that's considered a real ID. No.
No.
But
So that's a really important thing. It's a Real ID compatible identification card. In other words, they allow it to be used, but a Real
So
ID
far,
is
and
what
then-
the government wants you in. And so
I think they'll stop passports here soon.
it is a card that gets
It'll all have to be digital ID.
will get used for every transaction. So a passport is not for every transaction, right? It's a book, although you might have the passport card, but even that's not for every transaction, and it's not digitized, right? And so you're not going to take your passport to, buy a gun or buy groceries or, rent a car. You're not going to do that. Right. That's why they want everybody in. And the DMVs, when they testified to Congress, that was December 5th, 2023. And they said, we're going to digitize it, put it on your phone, and have remote real-time access to it. They said initially we're going to start with 2% of the identification cards. And eventually, and for a while, we're going to have people with a hard copy of their identification card, but eventually we'll switch over to it all being digitized. So this is, the DMVs have been very sneaky about this, because in that time when I said, all those states said no, right? And Obama then, did this clarion call to the world. In between that time, we discovered that the DMVs were accepting federal money to build the Real ID system, even though it was a violation of law.
Looky here.
Even though their laws said, thou shalt not do anything to advance the Real ID system, they were taking money and they were moving it forward. And as some of them said, there was an article in May of 2020.
And who's the organization that's passing money around to get things done?
When all of us were locked down and not looking, right? But there was an article in 2020 talking about what happened in those intervening years. And the reporter found that out by talking with 5 anonymous sources. And one of them said, we had to do it behind the backs of our governors, and we had to be very careful what we said so that our governors did not get embarrassed because they had signed a law against Real ID, and here we were moving it forward.
So it looks like most everybody did not want the digital ID, but they still passed it through somehow with the change of money getting passed around to certain people. I'm going to stop it here because I am running out of time. It's getting kind of late here and I got to get up kind of early. Thank you all for watching. There is so much more about digital ID that we can go through. Hopefully we can get that on the next live stream. We'll go over some other videos if you'd like. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys in my next video. Peace and good night. Oh, by the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment and share. Okay? Thanks.
Yeah. They say it's all for your safety, your peace, your freedom. But freedom don't come with a barcode. This is the new world, and we ain't bowing down. Cameras on the corners, drones in the sky. They tell you it's protection, but it's really a lie. Digital chains, call it ID for your life. Scan your face, trace your steps, no place to hide. Big brother peeking through the cloud in the code. They want your soul signed in binary mode. Elites at the top playing God with control, while the rest of us work just to fill up their gold. We the people, we rise, no order above. They can't program the spirit, can't sense our love. From the east to the west, every son, every daughter. We break the chains of the new world order. Yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. Stand tall, stand tall, stand tall. We break the chains of the new world order. They talk about peace while they prep for the wars. Global agendas behind secret doors. Logos of the eye, symbols in disguise. Truth buried deep where the media lies. Control the food, control the seed, control the truth, control your feed. They selling fear on a 4K screen, but the power of the mind still reigns supreme. No fear, no slave, no silent border. We fight for truth, we fight controlling the phony. We the people, we rise, no order above. They can't program the spirit, can't censor our love. From the east to the west, every son, every daughter, we break the chains of the new world order. Yeah, 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 yeah. We break the chains of the new world order. Yeah, yeah. Stand tall, stand tall. We break the chains of the new world order. They can take your cash, take your job, take your pride, but they can't take your mind unless you let them inside. So stand up, stay woke, and move smarter. Yeah, yeah. This is the anthem of the freedom starter. We the people, we the power. No new world order. Yeah, yeah. We the people. We the power. No new world order. Yeah, yeah. They say freedom ain't free, but who's really paying the fee? We the people. We the voice they don't wanna see rise up. Yeah. We the people stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people won't kneel, won't break. Police stay breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the gray, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. Cameras in the sky, in the phones, in the lights. Data in the cloud, every move in they sights. Algorithms judge what's wrong, what's right. When truth speaks loud, they censor the mic. Elites in the dark, pulling strings for control. Printing fake news just to poison the soul. Talking revolution, but they taxing the poor. They want a new world, we seen this before. I ain't signing no chip, I ain't losing my name. They tracking my steps, while they shift the blame. Digital ID, modern day change. Freedom's the fire, they can't contain. Yo, we the people stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people won't kneel, won't break. Police stay breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the gray, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. They spy through the apps, through the lens in disguise. Freedom of thought, that's the biggest crime. Elites toast wine while the people just grind. Ain't nothing divine by the dollar sign. They fear unity, cause we too strong. Once we rise up, they empire gone. Truth hit hard like a rebel song. We the people been right all along. So I speak for the silent, the lost, the ignored. The ones fighting peace while they profit from war. Power to the streets, yeah, we even the score. Freedom ain't dead, it's what we fighting for. Eyes open wide, no trust in the screen. They selling lies and designing dreams. But knowledge is power, that's the vaccine. Against the machine, I reign supreme, I reign supreme. We the people stand tall, no chains on me. Digital ID, tryna barcode me. Big brother watching, yeah, I see those screens. They selling freedom in the name of peace. We the people won't kneel, won't break. Police stay breathing down our necks all day. Illuminati shadows playing in the gray, but the light in my soul ain't fade away. We the people, not numbers, not slaves. We the people, still fighting the wave. We the people, the brave, the awake. They can't cage your mind, they can't break.